found is the best way to start is to talk about your childhood. What's the earliest memory that you've had? And just kind of go from there. Talk about what it was like being a kid, where you grew up, who you grew up with, and what it was like.
Okay. So I am adopted, and I have always known that I've been adopted. I grew up in Southwest Michigan and still live in Southwest Michigan, love the area. Um, I have very fond memories of growing up near the beach, playing in the dunes, building forts. I
Oh, yeah.
love being outside,
Yeah.
climbing trees. I wasn't the typical girl playing with dolls. I preferred being outside, playing with trucks. I love Star Wars. So,
I wouldn't say that you were a tomboy, but you were kind of close to being a tomboy.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
kind of,
Well,
yeah,
see, there's nothing wrong with that because that's who you are and that's what that's how you grew up.
right.
So, did you have any siblings?
Yes, my parents also adopted a boy, so I have one brother, and he's about 3.5 years younger than I am. Um, I don't know if I should jump to my birth family at this point, but I also have siblings that I found out later in life I had.
Okay. Now,
So,
um, from what I know of, people who are adopted, there's one of two different ways they can accept it growing up. Um, how did it affect you when you first found out? And secondly, the second part of this question is, um, did you feel um, any sort of neglect or any sort of rejection?
mhm,
Because a lot of times it's usually pre-adolescents or adolescents when they find out, and you're dealing with a ton of stuff anyhow at that time.
yes.
But if you can just speak to that, I mean the whole process of finding out and how it affected you.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't really think about my birth family growing up. I had wonderful adoptive parents, um, and I was adopted as an infant, so they were the only parents, I knew of. It wasn't until I had children of my own that I started wondering, what's my ethnicity? What's my medical history?
Yeah,
Things like that.
sure.
So that kind of piqued my interest once I had both of my children. I felt before the process started of finding my birth family, I did feel rejection, abandonment, um, just not knowing the story of how I came to be.
Yeah,
Um, so God really healed me from that over time. But I was almost 31 years old when I met my birth parents. I
wow.
um, so my kids were 6 and 3 at the time,
Okay,
um, and it, I was adopted. It was closed adoption, so that just means no identifying information was given out.
I see.
I knew I was adopted out of Kalamazoo, Michigan, um, but the adoption agency was no longer, uh, I guess, there. It had combined services, and I didn't realize it. But um, I, so when I searched for them, the adoption agency, I couldn't find anything. So it's
Yeah,
like a dead end. It
yeah,
was frustrating. I didn't know how my adoptive parents were going to react to me wanting to
sure.
find my
Yeah,
birth parents, um, but they were very positive and very supportive of that and said they knew this day would come,
yeah,
um, and so they wanted to do whatever they could to help me. So I just told them I had searched a little bit, didn't get anywhere, and a week later, my dad had gone, he gets his mail from the post office, and he received a newsletter from Catholic Family Services, and it gave phone numbers of like the adoption services in Kalamazoo. And so my mom called, and lo and behold, it was the same organization that they had used to
That's
finalize my adoption. So they sent paperwork to me, and I checked the box for identifying information, not thinking I was going to get anything back.
yeah.
Just wanted to get any information I could at that point. Well, 3 years prior to me searching, my birth mother had given permission to give her name and address to me if I had come searching. So she paved the way 3 years prior to me searching.
That's amazing.
And so, yeah. So the social worker there said, I can't give you her phone number, but I can contact her and see if she's still interested in contacting you. So I'm like, okay. So she did. She called, and my birth mother, you know, got married 2 years after I was born, not to my birth father, but lives in Texas. And got her on the phone, and my birth mother just started crying and said, yes, I still want to make contact with her. You know, tell her that I love her and I've been praying for her every day.
Oh,
And so
wow. That's great.
the social worker called me back and told me that, and we then wrote letters, called, emailed, and she met me in person for the first time on my 31st birthday.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So she has a daughter and a son.
Okay.
So I have more family there.
So it was almost like, uh, to steal a phrase from Christianity, it's almost like being born again.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I did go through
Um,
that roller coaster ride, you know, finding my birth family.
yeah.
It was a roller coaster of
I'm
emotions.
sure there was a fair amount of anxiety, maybe apprehension. Um,
Yes.
uh,
Fear of rejection again,
yes.
you know, once I meet them. Yeah,
But
yeah.
that relationship, let's talk just a little bit about those relationships. Your adoptive parents, your birth parents, how did, where do all those relationships stand?
Uh, Very close to my uh, birth family. It's like I've always known them. It wasn't just like a honeymoon stage where, oh, this is so exciting, you know, I finally get to meet you. We developed a relationship where, you know, we call each other on a regular basis. We schedule, you know, vacations to come go to Texas and for them to come up here. You know, my birth father also has another daughter. So I have another sister on, you know, his side of the family, and you know, meeting aunts and uncles and cousins, you know,
Yeah.
that I didn't know I had. It's just everybody was so welcoming.
Oh, that's
You
great.
know, I think it would have been different if people would have been standoffish, but nobody has been. It's just been very welcoming. And at first, for my adoptive mother, that was really hard. You know, she kind of did a 180. First very supportive, and then kind of I think felt threatened, like she was being replaced.
Yeah.
But over time, you know, that lessened, and you know, she knows, and everybody's part of the family now. My family just grew, you know, but it was replaced. It just grew bigger.
Um, let's back up just a little bit. I mean, we skipped ahead just a hair there, but
Sure.
coming up through the teenage years, high school, good times, lots of fun, I'm sure. I remember
Yeah.
a few of those days. Um, let's just kind of talk about your husband, Brad.
Hmm.
You met him early on in your life. You've known him almost your whole life. And tell me the first time that you knew that he was the one that you were going to be together.
Sure. I switched schools in the spring of our sixth grade year, and he and I are in the same grade. And so I met him in sixth grade. We dated in eighth grade, if you can date in eighth grade.
Yeah.
um, we were boyfriend and girlfriend. It was then that I believed that he was the one for me. back in eighth grade
Okay.
because we were together almost our whole eighth grade year. And it wasn't just, you know, I just call him my boyfriend kind of relationship. We could have conversations and just talk for hours,
That's
you
great.
know. And so I just knew at that time that he was the one for me, but it didn't work out until after high school that he realized I was the one for him.
Yeah. He finally came around.
He finally came around, yeah.
Um, you chased him until he caught you. Is that how it went?
Just about, yeah. He played basketball. I was sitting next to his mom in the stands, and she'd go home and say, "Brad, how about that Molly girl again? Mom, you know."
Thank God for
Thank,
mothers, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of, you're a mother. Talk about your two children. What it was like to become a mother for the first time and the second time, and then
Yeah.
experience their lives. I mean, did it make? I know this is kind of a long question, but having a child yourself, did it make it that much more special being adopted? Do you think, or would you have a different perspective had you not been adopted?
Yeah, I mean, becoming a mother for the first time was just absolutely amazing and terrifying at the same time. Um, but it gave me a lot of respect for my birth mother because being a mother, I was like, I can't imagine letting go of my child and trusting, you know, that somebody else will care
Yeah,
for my child.
sure.
So it gave me a lot of respect, you know, for her and what she went through. Um, but I absolutely fell in love with being a mom. Um, it's amazing that my kids are 23 and 19
Yeah,
now.
it's the time goes by so fast.
Oh, so fast. Yeah. It's just incredible. But I'm not the type of mother that looks back and goes, "Oh, I wish they were, you know, a baby again." I just enjoyed every stage of their life.
Yeah,
So I just, you know, I didn't look back and cry. I just keep looking forward and enjoying the moment.
yeah. And I'm assuming that they both still visit you. Well, your daughter just graduated, correct? Out of high school.
Yeah, she graduated last year. So she finished her first year of college,
Oh,
just beginning of May.
oh, that's
So,
amazing.
yeah.
Well, 3 more years, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, we got to get them off the payroll.
Exactly. Speaking of, when you two got married, can you talk about that just a little bit? But I just want to back up just a little bit. Let's talk about your faith first.
Okay.
Um, because I'm assuming, and you can tell me whether I'm correct, your strong Christian faith came just a little bit before getting married, or did it come after, or did you rely on it a little bit more after getting married?
It was just before. It was actually my senior year of high school that I gave my life to the Lord. I grew up in the Catholic faith. I appreciate that, but I just wasn't getting that connection. I didn't know about the relationship with Jesus. So then I changed churches and met wonderful people like you,
Oh,
and
thank you.
and just found just experienced God's love for the first time. Really, it just came alive to me. You know, the scriptures, Bible stories was like the very first time I heard them.
Yeah.
So that was my senior, well, kind of the winter of my senior year of high school. So I was just going into college like a brand new Christian.
Oh, good.
Hmm.
I mean, it's great because a lot of people go to college without that foundation, and they wind up in some areas that they don't want to be in.
Right,
Even the Christians, do. I mean, college is hard enough. Getting away from
right.
your structures,
Hmm.
it's difficult if you don't have those parameters in place and the disciplines, in your thought life. It's so hard. That's where good parents come in, and Hopefully your kids are very thankful for you and Brad raising them. In sixth grade, in the eighth grade, you knew he was the one. So you have this long history of yes, we'll be together in your mind.
Right.
When you finally got married, was it anticlimactic? Was there some kind of a letdown, like there's nothing to look forward to anymore? Or can you speak to that? How did the marriage ceremony affect you?
More like the puzzle piece just clicked. Like, all right, the picture is like, I wouldn't say finished because I would include, our kids in that puzzle.
Sure.
But it was just like, now we can relax and enjoy each other. We don't have to try so hard to win each other over, kind of thing. It's just like it just fell right into place, and just having God, Jesus is the foundation of our marriage was so important to us, and speaking to our wedding, I mean that's the theme we wanted people to experience when they came. We wanted them to feel, God's presence as we, said I do. It's just like it wasn't just about us; it was about everybody there.
Oh, that's great. Now, it was more, you can tell me if this is an accurate statement or not. It was more of a journey to the promised land, and now you can just relax and enjoy the promised land.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
We're both still learning. I mean, I was a fairly new Christian. He grew up, in the Christian faith with his family. But it was nice that we could just now come together and go on that journey together and learn together and, teach each other. And,
as far as like your prayer life, I'm assuming that your prayer life has increased in the last year or so. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And for those who don't know, why is that?
Well, I was just diagnosed with incurable cancer, non-small cell lung cancer, in early April. And I haven't been feeling well since probably last September. Just a lot of loss of appetite, increased thirst, joint pain, muscle stiffness, could hardly walk. Daily tasks were very difficult. I started losing my eyesight, became legally blind, and it was actually going to the eye doctor, getting an MRI, finding out I had tumors on my pituitary gland, which I had surgery. That's how I found out I had cancer. So yeah, the prayers have definitely ramped up.
Yeah. Can you describe, and I don't want to get too personal about myself, this is not my story at all, but I know our story and our experience because my wife has had a battle with cancer herself.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe the moment when you found out and heard that word that is just so searing to the person's spirit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was still recovering. I'd been to Mayo Clinic for my treatments and for the surgery, and I was recovering in a hotel. So I had my birth mother from Texas there and my husband Brad, and we had a video meeting in the hotel with one of my doctors, and she went over the results of another CT scan, MRI, and told me that I had cancer. So we ended that Zoom meeting, and it was just silence in the room. It was like nobody wanted to speak. And the only way I can describe it is like a switch went off inside me. And I just said, damn you, devil, you will not defeat me. And this strength just flooded over me, and peace. I can't describe it. I have not had 1 ounce of fear or anxiety over this diagnosis. I have only had peace. And I truly feel like my story's not over. Like this isn't a death sentence
Sure.
on me. I just said, God, use this for your glory. Whatever I have to go through to draw others onto you, I'll do it. I'll go through it. I just want to be an encouragement to other people.
That is a really scary thing to say to God, because He may take you up on it and He may take you through the ringer.
Yeah, yeah. I was feeling pretty awful at the time. I'll be honest. It was hard to breathe. The surgery was through my nose, so I'm still dealing with that. They said 3 to 6 months to heal. So it was hard to sleep, but I, it was like I felt God's love in a deeper, much deeper way than I have felt before. I love praise and worship. I've sung on the worship team at church for many years. That's what drew me to church in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I was listening to those songs for the first time. It just resonated through me. Like His presence is poured over me. And I have nothing but positive things to say. I can't explain it, but God, I can't put it into words.
It sounds like you're doing a great job explaining it. It sounds inspirational to me, to be honest with you. There's two different ways, and I've spoken to some other people who've gone through crisis situations in their lives, not necessarily cancer, but there is, for most people, two different ways you can go. When you hear bad news or you go through a crisis, you can run away from God or you can run to Him.
Yes.
And you chose to just dive in head first and swim underwater for all this time, and rely on Him to be your breath.
Exactly.
And to me, it's inspiring to hear that, because I knew you at the brink when I first met you. I knew you kind of at the brink of your faith. You weren't necessarily a super strong Christian, and honestly, at that time, I may not have been either.
Right.
But for me to hear, I'm not saying come full circle because your story's not over, but for me to hear the full circle of the story, it's very inspiring. Let it have that much power over you, power over I know power over your schedule, yes, but
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. My Mayo doctor team has chosen not to do radiation at this time, which I'm very thankful for. And they are using what's called targeted therapy. So I take 4 pills in the morning at breakfast and 4 pills in the evening with dinner. And that is supposed to target shrinking the tumors. So I have tumors on my brain and in my lung, a little bit in my bone, I think, in my thigh, possibly in my shoulder. And it just targets that and shrinks it. It's the medical aspect of it is the ALK gene was dormant, and another gene fused with it and woke it up, and now they're causing havoc, chaos in my body. So surgery on my lung won't take this away because they'll just multiply somewhere else.
I see.
So these pills are just like within the last 10 years that they've been developed. Okay. And they've had high success with it.
Oh, wow.
So I have had no side effects whatsoever from it. I'm basically just recovering from the brain surgery.
Okay.
Right now. So I haven't worked since the beginning of April, but I'm hoping to go back in the next couple of weeks.
Oh,
since
good.
My eyesight has improved. I went from 20/200 in my left eye to 20/25.
Oh, great.
So there must have been a tumor totally blocking that eye. It's gone now. So yeah, it really hasn't interrupted our lives that much. I have to go for lab work every couple weeks, which I can do here in Michigan. I don't have to drive to Mayo to do that. So once a month we travel to Mayo for appointments, but we've been very fortunate.
And how did your kids take this?
Uh, well, my daughter's still at college at the time, and she wanted to come home from school. All her classes were online because of COVID
Mm-hmm.
anyway. But she is a track athlete, and they were in their outdoor track season at that time. But she talked with the coaches. It won't affect her eligibility or her scholarship. And she wanted to come home. I think it was important for her to see me in person and to see that I was okay. Being up at school and, just hearing my voice, she wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So I think she was a little worried. My son too, although he's not as talkative about it as my daughter, um, he's here in Bridgman, living and working. So I'm able to see him more. But he too, he was worried at first. But after I came home, I mean, it took a good month for me to have the energy to get up and go out and do things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for all of my family, just seeing me now is very encouraging to them. I think it puts their mind at ease. Like, oh, mom's okay. I think she's gonna make it.
Yeah.
So it's nice having them around right now.
That's great. And I hesitate to ask this because I would rather ask him, but how do you think it has affected Brad?
I know it scared him. It scared him at first. It was very overwhelming. He's an engineer for his job, and he can fix things. He knows how to fix things, and he couldn't fix this.
Yes.
And that's very difficult.
It's difficult for a man in general. I mean, that's what we do. We problem solve and we
Yes.
fix stuff, and it's so hard when your hands are tied and you can't. You feel so helpless.
Yeah.
But some men wear their emotions on their shirt sleeve. Others just are recluse. Um, and you don't have to get too personal, but have you had some pretty good conversations in that regard?
Yeah. Right when I was discharged from the hospital, and my mom from Texas and Brad brought me back to the hotel, he had just gone to the pharmacy and gotten all my medications, and I had to take certain ones at certain times, and it was overwhelming for them. I was just so tired and out of
Mm-hmm.
it. um,
You didn't have the energy to be overwhelmed.
yeah, I was like, I just want to lay down, and I can't lay down because I got to sit up. But he brought everything up to the room, and he's like, I need a minute, and he left. And I knew he was just completely overwhelmed at that moment. Like, I have a huge responsibility to take care of her. She just had brain surgery. She has all this medication. I got to keep it straight. So what does he do? He goes for a walk, clears his head, comes back and makes a spreadsheet for all my medications.
Uh,
um, which has been a godsend because it helped us keep track. But he would say things like, "Don't leave me. You know, you're gonna be around for a long time. I need you." And I'm like, I
mm,
plan to be around. I plan to
yeah,
be with you for many, many years.
yeah.
And I think me being positive has rubbed off on him and the kids.
Well,
I think everybody was scared and worried at the beginning except me. And I think just me being, hey, this is life right now. We're going to get through it.
mm,
God's got my back. He's got it all planned out in front of us. Let's just go.
yeah.
And I think that has brought them peace.
If somebody came and told you, if a doctor came and told you that God was terminally ill and he's going to leave you at some point, how big of a loss would he be in your life?
Oh, huge. I wouldn't know how to go on. because he's everything. I I would just be like, no, I don't accept that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I, yeah, I wake up, he's my first thought. I go to bed, he's my last thought. I would not know how to function, honestly.
That's what I wanted to hear.
I mean, it's, somebody at church is like, just breathe in the breath of God, and I would say that to myself when I couldn't breathe through my nose and I couldn't sleep. It's like, no, I'm breathing in the breath of God. He's giving me life. I'm breathing in the breath of God. He's giving me life. I'm breathing in the breath of God. He's giving me life. I'm like, well, if he's going to die, I'm going to die then.
Well, I guess I kind of went in that direction just to help you along in this, because I just don't understand, and maybe people like this, but I just don't understand how a person can go through this life without him. To me, it seems so much harder to not believe than to believe. There's so much evidence. There's so much experience that you can have, and I just don't understand how a person, they have to be so miserable without him, so lost.
Lonely, yeah, lost and lonely. I can't imagine.
I
And,
mean,
and not just, yes, I'm going through cancer right now, but I'm not just leaning on God now. I mean, celebrating life with God too. When life is going smooth and great, I love to praise God in those times, too. I just can't imagine, not having him there.
so he is a majority of who you are. He is the biggest part of your story, let's put it that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
What do you want people to know about God?
I want people to know his love for you is so big and so deep. I mean, he sees our heart. He sees our brokenness in whatever caused that brokenness, from our childhood or something in our adulthood. He sees that and he wants to mend that and make you whole again. And it's such a wonderful feeling, when you do feel that wholeness, when God does heal your heart. I want them to know his forgiveness. It doesn't matter. We mess up. We're humans. We make mistakes,
Not me.
God is there to forgive us. Just his faithfulness, his provision. We've seen that time and time again, meeting our needs financially and physically and spiritually. It's just, he's there in every area of our life. He's there. And I want people to experience that. That's why I want to get my story out. I want them to experience it. You don't have to go through cancer to experience it,
That's the story.
You have it right now.
That's really the story that you needed to get out, was that you don't have to go through all of this to experience the faith that you have right now, the peace that you have right now, the peace that passes all understanding. You can have that without going through what you have gone through.
Yeah.
There are lessons to learn when you're going through things, but
Absolutely.
he is there regardless of your situation and your circumstance. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And whether or not I'm here, whether or not you're here, whether or not the people listening to this are here, he's still the same. He's God. He's the creator of the universe. He spoke it all into being, and he has your back because he loves you, and he believes that your story matters. And
Yes.
so do I. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to get this out, because, it's not just a sensational story about someone who's had cancer and has been leaning on the Lord as a crutch. That's not why I wanted to have you on. I wanted you to genuinely tell about your faith, regardless of cancer. And I appreciate you saying that so much. Everything that you've expressed is exactly why. Do you feel called to public service and/or/slash public speaking? I know that Brad ran for office before.
He's on the school board
Okay.
currently.
Yeah.
Public speaking, no, I mean, not so much. I just, acts of service has kind of always been my thing. I've always been the person like, I'm willing to get down and dirty, let's do whatever, to help somebody else out.
Yeah.
So that's what I like to do. I like to do things. But yeah, I'm open to whatever is next. I feel more confident and more boldness now in sharing my faith because of what I'm going through.
Okay.
Maybe it's just given me a platform for that, but yeah, I definitely feel more confident.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Doing things. You guys have taken vacations as a family. I've seen the pictures on social media.
Uh-huh.
Are there any plans for you guys to take another vacation together as a family anytime soon?
We don't have any specific plans, but I mean, funny that you should make that comment because we just talked about it like yesterday or the day before, honestly. Yeah. That, yeah, we need to take another vacation, and we were talking about different places or going back to a place that we really enjoyed. So,
what was that? Where was that?
Tennessee.
Okay.
We loved Tennessee. We stayed, rented a house with Brad's side of the family, actually. So it wasn't just the four of us, but we'd like to go back with, the four of us and enjoy it. We loved the mountains, and the views were spectacular. And there was so much more that we didn't have time to do while we were there. So we all four of us like being outside. So, hiking, definitely.
My last question for you, and this doesn't have to be the end, but the last question I wanted to ask you was, and I ask everyone this, and I kind of catch them by surprise, but after a few episodes of this, I don't think I'm going to catch anybody by surprise anymore. But if we had, maybe your engineer husband invented a time machine where you could go back and speak to your 18-year-old self, what would you say?
I would tell myself to trust in God and trust in His process, that healing doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And it's okay to hurt, and it's okay, to feel disappointment and to feel angry, but God is going to love you through all of those emotions, and to hang on.
That's good sound advice. Do you think that your 18-year-old self would listen to you?
Well, I just become a Christian at 18, so maybe. I probably would have just said, thanks.
As we were so rudely interrupted with our power outage here, I started thinking about it, and then hopefully you're open to it. I would like, if you would, to pray for those who would be going through some of the similar things that you're going through. It doesn't have to be cancer, but, medical situations or things that could be life-threatening that may be weighing on their mind or their hearts or their spirits. So, would you be open to praying for them?
Sure, absolutely. Father, I just thank you for this opportunity to talk with Steve and just to share my story. And I pray for those going through similar situations as mine medically, or maybe it's just a loss of a spouse or a family member or job. But I just pray for those people right now, God, that they will feel your peace that passes all understanding. May it resonate through their thoughts, God, that they may have sweet sleep at night, that they will not have trouble sleeping anymore, God, that your love will just encompass them, and that they'll feel it like a warm weighted blanket on a cold day, God, that you'll just wrap them in your love. And I just pray, God, just meet their needs, whether they be physical for healing, God, or financial, um, physical, spiritual uh, needs, God, that maybe they don't know how to talk to you. I just pray that you will just teach them. It's just like talking to a friend, to be able to talk to you. And I just pray that your word will come alive to them as it has to me. As I read the scriptures that I've read before many times over, it just like jumps off the page to me. And I just pray that you will speak that to them, and that their faith will be ignited, God, that you will give them hope, that you have a future in you, God. No, we don't know how many days that we have on this earth, but God, you do. And I just pray that they will want to live life 100% to the fullest in you, God. I just thank you for your love, and for your provision. And I thank you for this time with Steve. I just pray your blessing over him, and the ministry that he has through this podcast. In Jesus' name.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure. It's been an inspiration. I'm so
Yeah.
thankful that we were able to connect and do this, because I really have a heart for people's stories. And
Yes.
regardless of whether or not you've been diagnosed with your diagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
your story would still matter. And I really do. I'm right there with you. I want you to know that I'm right there with you, holding hands, praying. We're all in this together.
Yes.
And I'm sorry that it took, I guess, all this nonsense that you're going through for us to kind of connect like this. Um, but it's been great. You look wonderful. You're feeling good?
Feeling good, feeling strong. Best I felt in months.
That's awesome. Well,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully you'll be able to get back to work, get back to life, take your
Yeah.
vacation, take a big old breath of God's inspiration.
Amen. Yes.